Annyeonghaseyo! Welcome to Afternoona Delight, where Leah, Megan, and Amy, romance novelists and your K-romance guides. So grab some dekboki and listen to your new favorite unnies.
Hey, everybody.
Hello. It's just us today.
No, just kidding. There's no Amy.
It's just us because we're talking about a violent K-drama today. And that's why Amy is taking the night off.
And this may be very confusing for some of you because you may think there's only one host here because you don't think Megan and I sound different. So you may just think we're talking to ourselves. You're not. There are two of us.
Yeah, and my voice is a little I feel like my voice is like not normal today. So I just got back from Orlando today. So I was in Orlando for my daughter's field hockey tournament and we stayed like 6 days or whatever. But I'm back. Very excited for numerous reasons. We had a really good time while we were down there. And I think if you listen to this podcast, you know that I am a big fan of the Professional American Football League, particularly the Philadelphia Eagles. If you don't follow American football, you don't know what I'm talking about. If you do, then you know. But the Eagles what's funny is like my husband is a massive Eagles fan and so is my son. So when the Eagles lost the Super Bowl, like, I don't know, 4 years ago or something like that, my son sobbed himself to sleep. Like I'm talking like we could hear him from our bedroom just wailing. Like it was so sad. And it's like, you can't, as a parent, I found it a little funny, honestly, because it was like because I know he wasn't hurt. Like he was fine.
You know what? We were podcasting. I remember you telling this story on a podcast like the first year, I think.
Yeah, because it was very dramatic. Well, so the Eagles are going to the Super Bowl again now. So this is like the second time that my son can remember. They did win the Super Bowl in 2018, I think. But my son doesn't remember that as much. So anyway, my daughter had this field hockey tournament, and the biggest thing was my son was like, when can we get somewhere to watch the Eagles game? And I was like, I promise you we will get somewhere to watch the Eagles game. That was like the really, really big deal for him. And fortunately, even though she made it to the championship, the game was over in time and we went right back to our hotel because my husband was like, I am not watching this game with anybody. Like, I'm just not.
So Hazel won the championship.
Well, she made it to the championship game. They lost the championship, so they got second place, which was very exciting, very exciting.
Congrats to her.
Yes, thank you. But I would say the family was way more excited about the Eagles winning. It was really funny because, like, we're in Orlando. We're in Florida, okay? Like a 2.5-hour plane ride from Pennsylvania. And, well, we flew out of BWI, whatever. And
it's only 2.5 hours?
From BWI, yeah, 2.5 hours down to Florida.
God,
yeah, it's a really short plane ride. It's actually not bad at all. Some people in the tournament drove, and I was like, hell no. Oh, no. Because that's a really long drive. It's like 16 hours or something. But it was really funny because we're down in Orlando, and it's my husband and my son were wearing like Eagles gear a lot. Just because, like, well, especially my son, that's like the only clothes he has. And a lot of times if you see another Eagles fan, you just say, go Birds. That's just like what you say. And the amount of people at this field hockey tournament that had Philadelphia Eagles gear on was hysterical. Like you would just walk by people and say, go Birds, like all day. It was on Sunday, like, because we were still at the field hockey tournament in the morning and then the game was in the afternoon. I had one guy walk up to me, a complete stranger, and just starts talking about the injury report. He didn't even say hi. He just walks right up to me and he goes, Cam Jurgens is out with a back issue. And I was like, who are you? Okay.
And my name is Megan.
Yeah, I was like, hi. And he had like the thickest Philly accent I've ever heard. He's like, Cam Jurgens is out. Like, it was so funny. But the Eagles won. They're going to the Super Bowl. It was very exciting time for all of us.
Well, we do not have Amy here. I know Amy doesn't give two hoodles about football, but she is a giant Swiftie, which makes me wonder, is she going for the Chiefs because of the Swiftie bump? And yeah, I know throwing this in because this is the only thing I have to offer this conversation.
I know. I love that thank you for offering something. I don't know. I mean, she can root for who she wants to, and I like Taylor and I like the Kelsey brothers very much, but I'm rooting for the Eagles.
Don't you think Jason Kelsey secretly is like, go Eagles, though?
Oh, he is. He said on the podcast, he was like, I'm rooting for the Eagles.
Yeah, I mean, his brother's already gotten, like, his brother's got his ring.
He's like, I'm rooting for the Eagles, but I want my brother to have a good game. That's what he said. Very funny.
Very fair.
So
I am going to say Jason is my favorite of the Kelsey brothers, no doubt.
How can he not be? So, and his wife's pregnant with their fourth girl.
I follow his wife on Instagram and listen to bits of her podcast. So I don't actually listen to her podcast. I'm just honestly there's no shade. I'm just like, I'm all up on like, I'm full. My entertainment calendar is full, but I do like seeing like clips of her on Instagram, and she is funny.
Yeah, she's very funny. I'm the same way. I got enough stuff. I got to watch Singles Inferno. Like, I got enough entertainment to watch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, we wanted to talk about games because, Super Bowl's a big game, and we're talking about the other really big game of 2025.
Yeah. Which is
Squid Game 2.
Squid Game 2.
So I'm going to do just like a short blurb of kind of what Squid Game 2 is about. And then we are going to talk about this. Look, honestly, you can't talk about Squid Game. I mean, you could, but I just don't feel like it. We're not going to talk about it without spoilers.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. We're not doing.
I'm not interested today in not talking about spoilers. I just want to get into it from the go.
Right. And I do want to say, yes, we did cover the first season of Squid Game. Check back through our podcast list if you want to listen to that first and then come back and listen to us talk about season 2.
And I do think if you even get something spoiled and you haven't seen it, it's fine. I mean, honestly, I think you're still going to enjoy it because I would say this was a lot less about twists and turns for me and more about what it's talking about. So to me, I don't feel like there's not a lot of jump scares that are like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that happened. It's more just like, we're going deeper on the concepts.
I feel like a lot of stuff that happened, I could like see it coming. And I don't think the show was trying to hide it.
Yeah, agreed. The first episode did have a big surprise. I guess I can like kind of frame that up when we get to talking about episode 1 in case somebody wants to have like one real big surprise.
Right.
So, man. Unfortunately, my husband just called. I'm going to turn that off. He's calling me from Tahiti. The poor man. I will have to talk to him later.
The poor man. Yeah, right.
Yeah. Okay. So, haunted by his victory in the deadly Squid Game, Sung Ji-hoon cannot escape the weight of his blood-stained fortune. Now he's turning his 45.6 billion won prize into a weapon against its very source.
Okay.
His first target, the mysterious recruiter who started it all, still luring desperate souls with his subway games. But then Ji-hoon finally corners the man in the suit and discovers a chilling truth. To destroy the game, he'll have to play it one more time. And this round promises to be even more lethal than the last. What do you think?
Very
about
good.
A blurb?
Did you write that?
I didn't. I modified it. I like looked up a whole bunch of blurbs and then I just kind of like pulled that.
I like it. You did. I like that.
Thank you. So, expectation versus reality. How did you feel knowing there was going to be a Squid Games 2 sequel, and how did it pan out in terms of how you enjoyed it?
So let me say I was worried. I did really enjoy Squid Game because I thought it had a very clear message. But obviously what got attention were the deadly games, like the violence and the gore. And I feel like that's what brought in like the non-average, like Korean entertainment watcher. Mm-hmm. And I would say that was kind of more played up to get people to watch it. And so when I saw that there was a season 2, I was very concerned that they were going to play up the violence and not have the message, okay, which would have been very disappointing to me. And so I was a little concerned. I was like, if they just lean into the violence and don't include like the theme and messaging, I'm going to be super disappointed, because to me, that's what made the first Squid Game important. Or it would have been just like a Saw movie, and that's not what I wanted. So when I started watching Squid Game 2, the reality was I felt like they leaned harder into the message. I would say the gore in this first part of season 2 was not really as present. Like I feel like the games were again a vehicle for the message and the themes, which made me really happy. Like there was a lot of talking. There was a lot of conversations. Like my husband was like, I'm tired of them talking. And I'm like, shut up. That is the point. My son did the same thing. My son's like, he had to watch it. He watches it English dubbed, but he's like, well, when did they get to the games? And I was like, you're missing. I literally went off on him. I went off on him because I was like, about the evils of capitalism. Like I went like full TED talk on him. Because I was like, you please don't watch this just wanting the violence of the games, because you really are missing the point. And I will also say too, just as this season aired, we were waiting for the incoming new president for his second term after a 4-year break, I guess. And it also aired right after the murder of the healthcare CEO in New York. So with all of that, and I would say more so than the murder, it was the reaction to the murder. And I would say with both of those things going on, and people talking about like their healthcare debt, how there are different rules for the wealthy. My watching of Squid Game 2, I felt way more affected by it. Some people, I don't know, I saw some reviews that people didn't like it or they found it boring, and I think those are the people who just wanted the deadly games. But for me, I was watching it wanting the messaging and then also feeling more impacted by the messaging based on what was going on around us at the time.
For me, I really just felt like this was the sequel we didn't need. We didn't ask for, and we didn't need it. And I guess I felt like season 1 really was like hyped and got so popular in the West, kind of became almost just like, you didn't have to watch K-drama to know Squid Game. It really just like moved into like general population discourse. And so when I heard there was going to be a second, it really just felt like, oh God, like here we are, like the West, like, this show really did well in the West. Now we're going to do this thing where we're going to have like multiple seasons, I guess. Like, I'm just not that interested. So I was just kind of like, nah, I'm just not into it. When it came out, I was like, I'm sure I'll watch it at some point. But in my head, I was like, maybe. I mean, I say I will, but like, will I really? And then I remember you said you were going to start it. And I was like, okay. And I was still like, eh. And then Becky from the Patreon contacted me and said, look, I don't know if you're going to watch this or not, basically, but I need you to watch episode 1. I need to talk about episode 1 with someone right now. It is not a request. It is a need. And I mean, look, if you've ever asked me to watch something and I haven't, I am not ignoring you. It's just in that exact moment, they hit me when I had time. I was kind of just like laying on the couch in Australia on Christmas vacation, not doing a whole lot of anything, and was like, sure, I can watch one episode and talk to her about it. I watched the first episode and it's a very good first episode, but I also was like, okay, like not in the mood for it, I guess. And like, I was like, it was very good. Like, I thought it was good, but then I was like, I put it away. And then both my teenagers watched it. And that's when it lit a fire. Cause I was like, look, I like the first episode good enough. And if I do not watch it, they're going to spoil it for me just by being like annoying children. Like my daughter was like, I need to talk about it. And I was like, if you say one fucking word. Yeah. And so I finally was like, look, I'm just going to do it. It's fine. And I put on Instagram that I watched 2 dramas kind of like close together. One was When the Phone Rings and one was Squid Game 2. And I was like, I really liked one. And the other one, I was just like, meh. And most people were like, and I was like, guess which one? And people were like, I think you liked When the Phone Rings and Squid Game was going to be your meh.
That's what I guessed. Because you said the same thing to us. And I was like, oh shit, she didn't like Squid Game. And I was a little disappointed because I was like, I think it had meat to it.
Look, I loved it. Honestly, I'm going on the record to say I I liked this Squid Game better than last Squid Game, and I'm on the Squid Game train at this point.
Yeah.
And it's probably a comedy because, and here's the thing. Are there elements of it that like is this like a perfectly done drama? No.
Oh.
I don't care. Mm-hmm. And I guess for me, inevitably, a lot of what we watch is informed by like our moods, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm in the mood for Squid Game. Like I felt like Squid Game hit me in a good time. And I feel like I'm ready to continue the Squid Game conversation because I find it to be both cathartic and kind of like interesting.
Right. I completely agree. I've been waiting to talk about this because of that, because I sort of like, it was one of those dramas where I finished it and I kind of like sat with myself to think about it. You know what I mean? Mr. Plankton did that to me for longer, but I definitely had to like sit with myself after Squid Game and think about how it affected me and why I was feeling that way.
Yeah. So I really liked it. So we had a request from the Patreon of somebody saying, I saw season 1. I'm trying to decide if I should see season 2. Can you give me a comp?
Oh my, I don't know. There's really not.
I'm going to go with the comp I always give for Squid Game. So if you've heard this before, sorry, like it's the best comp I have. And that is Strangers from Hell.
Yeah.
Which is a game of a different kind. But Strangers from Hell is essentially, we've talked at length, but if you're new, I always hate woman-splaining something and being like, people are like, we know, you talk about it a lot, but you never know. There's new people that listen. But Strangers from Hell essentially explores essentially a low-income hostel in Seoul and folks who have set themselves up to prey on the poor there and eat them. It is an active cannibalistic movie with Lee Dong-wook as a dentist, somebody who has more of a white-collar job, as the ringleader of the meat wagon.
The meat wagon. Oh God, that sounds terrible. Oh God, it's so good though. My daughter has it on her list, by the way, because now she has an MC1 crush. So,
I mean, look, I don't know if she can.
Oh, she loves horror. She loves horror. Like she'll love it.
I should ask my daughter if she wants to see it too, because she loves Alice in Borderlands. She just finished Alice in Borderlands.
Hazel's watching that right now. She was watching it on the plane.
We need to buddy them up.
We do, because she was watching that on the plane. She's super into it. She's watched Sweet Home. She's really into those like. I think she's gonna watch Happiness.
There's a conversation to unpack at a different time. How the younger generation, I mean, they're more Gen Y. They're on like that Gen Y, Gen Z cusp, off romance and into horror. And there's a lot to say about this, I think.
Yeah,
at a different time.
So I did think of a comp. I would say Bloodhounds. So Bloodhounds is Won and Lee Sang-yi, and they are former military and also amateur boxers. Basically, Won's mother is under a ton of debt to keep her restaurant shop open, and unfortunately, one of her debtors, is a very violent, mean gang leader and mobster, I guess. And so Won and Lee Sang-yi have to defend her, and then they get in a mob war, and it's crazy. It can be a little unhinged, which I think, especially Squid Game 2, the first episode is unhinged, thanks to Kang Ha Neul. Absolutely unhinged. And I would say Bloodhounds has some levels of that. I would say less on theme, but more if you kind of like the action of Squid Game, I would say A Shot for Killers is also maybe a good comp. But I would say Bloodhounds for me is probably the most direct. Deals with, people in debt and how they're just kind of stuck in a cycle.
Yeah. And I thank you for that. And it reminded me that I really just talked about cannibalism and like left off like why it's a comp from Strangers from Hell. And Strangers from Hell is a critique on kind of what happens, kind of the dehumanization that's allowed to occur for folks kind of at the bottom of the socioeconomic ladder, and how that creates like a breeding ground, right, for exploitation.
Correct. But when you're watching it, it's just Lee Dong-wook with a tooth necklace, or tooth bracelet. It's just wild. It's wild.
I do love it.
Yeah, it's twisty too. it gives me Fight Club vibes. So let me that's all I'm gonna say about that. But
yeah. Okay. So just a question for fun before we get into some kind of like more like complex. 'Cause I told you tonight I gave the promise that this is going to end up being like an hour-long rant on capitalism with some Kang Ha Neul thrown in.
yeah.
Before we get into that, I just want you to search your heart and really
Right.
think, could you fork someone to death?
So look, I've thought about that. So when they open the kimbap foil in Squid Game and find the fork, and you can tell right away he's like, this is a weapon.
Yeah. So kimbap, like they basically, just for anyone who's listening along, they get nightly meals. And once they're like ratcheting up the tension, like the folks who are making the game, there's a night where they get their kimbap, but there's forks, and you don't need a fork to eat your kimbap. So they're essentially weaponizing them with utensils.
Yeah, I fully believe I could not fork someone to death. I do not think I have the strength to puncture maybe an elderly person who has very thin skin.
Oh, gross.
I know.
Paper thin skin.
But like Neil has skin like a crocodile. I fully believe I couldn't puncture skin if I tried to. I mean, I don't want to try. But I fully believe I couldn't. Do I think he could fork me to death? 100%. 100%. I don't know. I don't think I could do it.
I like that you went into it with like the physicality of it.
Yes.
Like, physically.
Oh, yeah.
It's the mental part of it. So we approach this question, both valid ways to answer. We both are answering this from a different point of view.
No, mine, I'm all about physical. Cause I mean, if I've been Squid Game mentally, yes, I think mentally I could fork someone to death like that. Like the older guy who was like the ringleader of wanting to keep the games, man, I wanted to fork him.
So look, I find forking. I want to preface this with a long time ago, I watched Saving Private Ryan. And there was a scene in Saving Private Ryan that gave me such trauma that it haunts me to this day. And it's a scene where there's like two characters. They're both like enemy soldiers, and they are like, I don't remember where they are, but they're in like close proximity in like a building. It's been a minute since I've only watched it once because I was like, never again after this. And they end up in a knife fight, and one of them I think it's the German stabs the American, if I can remember correctly. And it was realistically portrayed to me because it wasn't fast. It was very slow.
Right.
And they're so intimate. They're so close. And the guy dying essentially just keeps being like, no, like, and he's like, like, it's very intimate, the whole thing. It's like a very like, it's murdery, but it's not like Chucky.
Yeah.
It's slow. So that idea of close combat, slow murder, just like, I found that to be so haunting and horrific. Like, you can watch people just like run around and zombie face eat people. Like I can, but that very slow, quiet, intense one-on-one murder like really got me in a way that I was like, oh, no, thank you.
Fair.
So it's interesting because Squid Game presents it more like the Chucky stabbing for the most part. Like you're running around stabbing willy-nilly. But then we have the intimacy of knowing characters who are getting forked. And so that makes it difficult to watch. But when I think about it, this is not a quiet setting where it's me pitted against one enemy on a geopolitical scale. This is a room where everyone has been weaponized and they're coming for you. So in that context, I could get my head in the game. And I think it would be, I'm not a person who would fork for money. I wouldn't be like, I'm killing people so that I could like get that piggy bank going.
Correct. I'm killing people to keep myself alive, or like the pregnant woman.
My people,
my friends.
And I think if somebody was coming for, I think I would even kill more for someone else than myself almost. Yeah, although look, I'm killing for myself. I'm not going to stand there and let someone fork me either.
No. Do
I have the skill and technique? I mean, not great, not right? Strong, but would I like not fuck around? Correct.
Right.
Like I would definitely get some forks in. And I think I could wield it with a way that I would break even the crocodile's skin. I don't know
See,
if I would remain victorious. I really think my weakness in Squid Game is always the physicality.
I know.
But if I had to just do it on sheer, like, I guess I just need to disassociate. Bro, I've been disassociating since I could talk.
Right.
Disassociate.
Well, I feel like I could go for the eyes. I mean, they say go for the eyes. The eyes are the privates. So I feel like I could do that.
We saw some under the chin, which was a good strategy.
Whoa, that is a good strategy. That is super thin. Yeah,
under
you're right.
The chin into the throat was a good spot.
That is a good spot. That's not going to kill them, but that's going to like completely.
It kind of did take out one pretty good. I think
Yeah.
I mean, that could have been fake. Like, that may not. I don't know.
Yeah, because I don't think there's like an artery there. I don't know. I mean, I honestly went straight to physical. You're like, you were
on the side. I feel like where they got the guy who got under the chin, he needed it more on the side where the jugular. Okay, so now that we've got people working and wanting to fast forward, let's continue. Okay, so I want you to think about the game structure because, we're coming at this from Squid Game 1, where we already know kind of like how the sauce got made, right? Like by the end, we see what the Squid Game is all about, how it's laid out. So they don't spend time introducing it. Like we don't see a lot of those elements in Squid Game 2 because we're already meant to know kind of what's going on. So the game structure is there's a small group of ultra wealthy individuals who've created a system where desperate people compete against each other for wealth, while most will die trying. The players, though, get this illusion of fair competition. Same rules, same chance to win. But at least in the first one, there was only one survivor. So is it really fair? The show also shows how capitalism pits struggling people against each other instead of against the system that created their hardship. So players will betray friends and make very brutal choices while these wealthy VIPs are watching in a separate area for entertainment. And so there's like that speaks to there's like a commentary on choice. Like, yes, players are choosing to be in the game. And we can see in the framework of this show, they elect to come without really knowing the scope. When they find out it's a playing to the death, they can vote. So they're choosing kind of as a collective, do we stay or do we go? And so far, the yes votes have been winning, which keeps the game going. And you're kind of stuck in the game, even if you voted to leave, because like it's meant to be kind of like democratic voting. Mm-hmm. But let's say that like you were to leave too. Your options are also like you could be drowning in debt. So is that really a choice either? So how do you think that this show portrays these power dynamics? Like, is it successfully done? And then does it change how you view real world arguments about equal opportunity or personal choice?
Yeah, I mean, I do like your point where you're saying that like they're just battling each other instead of like the system that put them in there. And it made me think of the whole like GameStop stock situation. I don't know if you remember that, but that's where people essentially like manipulated the stock system legally, like a Joe Schmo to get like filthy rich, and the real rich people who always benefit are like, wait a minute, we don't want Joe Schmo to get rich. Like, we just want to keep ourselves rich. Like they legally manipulate the system, but like Joe Schmo shouldn't be able to legally manipulate the system. It made me think that there's like a whole movie now. I forget what it's called. But it made me think about that, how there's like separate rules, obviously, for like the wealthy, like they're allowed to legally manipulate things because they've like made the rules to enable them to do that. And then as soon as they see regular people doing the same thing, then they're going to like change the rules again. And they're going to change the laws so that, the average person can't rise above their station, so to speak. So yeah, it made me think about that. And I do love how the show portrays it because, like one thing I thought that was interesting about the games when they first started, that was a little bit different from some of the variety of the games in season 1, is that a large portion of the games you were just shot by the pink guards. Like that, you lost the game and you were shot. Whereas in season 1, I felt like there were different ways you died. Like you fell off a platform, you know, fell to your death. Same thing, like you stepped through glass, you fell to your death. So I thought that was interesting that they did that, but then they still brought in like the forks to have people fighting each other. So it also felt like you have these like faceless people, which is essentially capitalism, like shooting the participants. I thought it was an interesting gaming choice, and I'm curious how that will play out in the second part.
Yeah, all good. Yeah, and I think the GameStop example is really good. We are Americans in America, and we are at a time, obviously, at this point, like where the whole world is watching us with like some kind of horror of like what's unfolding here. And so for me, like a few points I want to make, first of all, is that like I think that like we are kind of like living out a version of this right now, and the fact that we're not playing a Squid Game, but I would say that like the culture war that's really been foisted upon us is some element of this too. So we've really been weaponizing the idea of like citizenship, or, you know, like your background and who you come from, or your gender identity is a very good one, like that they're using a lot. So the idea that like, you know, so we're getting people riled up and like, yeah, I don't want to have this man in the woman's locker room, you know, and they've like really made these like reductionist, very kind of like ugly things that have kind of pit people against others, like in a way that you can begin to dehumanize them, to distract from the fact of this like economic system, for like that, you know, we're all being screwed by. And so the examples that I wanted to lay out of where I would feel like, and there's versions of this everywhere. We do not have an ownership to how we are being economically screwed, but I'm just going to lay these out from like the American's perspective of some of the things I feel like I see just like in our society all around, as somebody working in higher education, as somebody who just like thinks about these things. So our debt traps. And so they speak to this in Squid Game quite a lot. And so, you know, from where I sit, what I see in like my day to day is we're in a system that encourages debt. We have student loans, we have mortgages, we have credit cards and the whole credit system that keep people dependent on their jobs, but you miss a few payments due to job loss or illness, or interest rates will multiply from your original debt. And especially the credit system, like if you get behind on a payment and you miss a payment, or you even forget a like just something happens and your credit score starts to go down, you're immediately then charged more for everything. So it's essentially like the minute that you start to get into a slide, everything just starts to pile up on you to just push you further down the system.
Everything costs more. Like if your credit score goes bad, like everything costs more. And that always, when I sold insurance, that always hurt me so bad, because these people you know, just because their credit score was lower, they had to pay more. And it always like was so hard to tell people that, because they're being punished like over and over and over again.
So credit score, for like if you're not in the US, is essentially a number that you're assigned to show that like if you are a risk for people to like loan money to, or, you know, anything. And I'm going to give a really, really short example. I didn't mean to do this, but I think it's a good one because it's short. And because I think credit scores can also be very othering. Like somebody's like, well, you didn't pay a bill. Like you did something wrong. So like, that's why you have bad credit.
Yep.
When I was in college, my parents said, you may not get a credit card. No matter what happens, Leah, we do not want you to get a credit card. Like credit cards are the way of like madness, and you will destroy your entire life if you get a credit card.
Yeah.
And on my college campus, we would have people in our university center every day trying to get students to sign up for credit cards. And I'd be like, absolutely. My parents have told me never get the credit card. Don't get the credit card. I would walk past. I ignored it. I never got the credit card. I moved to Australia out of college, had no credit card, moved in with my husband. He had a credit card. I got one with him, and we kind of like built, like we lived our lives, had credit cards, did stuff, moved back to the US, and I went to get a cell phone, and I'd been gone for about 5 years. So we're in Hawaii. I remember it was like day 2. I'm like, we need a cell phone plan. They were like, oh, no, you can't. Like your credit's too bad. And I was like, what do you mean? I've never had a credit card. How could my credit card be too bad? Well, there's 2 things at play. The credit, you need to play the system to have a credit. So I hadn't gotten credit. So I had no credit. I had a credit score of under 500. That's how bad it was. Like,
oh, wow. Yeah.
So my first credit card in the US, I had to pay $500 to Bank of America for them to give me a credit card with a $500 limit so I could begin to establish credit because I was seen as such a high risk. I had one ding on my credit report, and that was I had gotten a tetanus shot from like tripping on barbed wire. And when I moved, basically like I'd moved internationally, and somehow this like $70 copay didn't catch, like it got lost in like transit.
No, yeah.
So I had no credit, and then I had a ding on my credit report for a non-payment of a $70 hospital fee. That the minute I saw that I had it, I paid it.
Mm-hmm.
That does not matter. You can pay that debt that you, like in my case, I didn't even know I had it. Does not matter. It took me 6 years to build up my credit score to like where I had like a normative credit.
Yeah. You have to play the system, the rules that were established by the people in power. Like you have to play the system. You can't just like live off the grid.
I wasn't going to be looking to buy a house. Like I couldn't do anything until I had that fixed.
Right.
And I am now, I check my credit score probably every other day.
Oh, wow. Because
Like,
that would have really affected you. Yeah.
It really affected me, and it F's people up.
It does. I know. I hate it.
So again, we have this limited. So the other thing we have in this country, but in other places, but again, I'm speaking to our uniquely American context, is this idea that like anyone can work their way up. The American dream is you're going to pull yourself up by the bootstraps and you can work your way up.
Mm-hmm.
However, reality shows that most wealth is inherited. So without starting capital, it's extremely hard to build wealth, especially like generational wealth, just from wages, because costs are rising faster than salaries at all times. And so, yeah, you can get what would be considered a good job. But were you Elon Musk, whose dad had like, you know, money in like the precious jewel industry and like gave you a head start? Like, these are not people that just like woke up one day and were like, I'm scrappy and I have a good idea and I'm going to make something of myself. And so again, when we're talking about this whole dismantling right now of the Trump administration saying goodbye to DEI, which is diversity, equity, and inclusion, equity is that middle linchpin. The idea that we have to level playing fields because these type of playing fields are not level. And instead, we're moving it to this idea of meritocracy, which sounds really good on paper, which is if you're just good enough and smart enough and scrappy enough, America, you can make it. It's a big fucking lie is what it is. Mm-hmm. And it benefits the people who have the mobility and the starting capital. Mm-hmm. Then we have people who are, you know, renting. So they're building no equity while paying someone else's mortgage. Higher education costs. I can speak to that directly. Being in higher education requires people to take on major to borderline catastrophic debt. But to pay that off, they need to have decent paying jobs. And when we're seeing the cost of education being billed at such extraordinarily high levels right now, versus like in California, in-state tuition is almost $40,000 a year. Sure, you could get loans or whatever, but we're also talking about you could be in the middle class where you're making not enough that it like you're still precarious because of the cost of living, but you look okay on paper. Versus, you know, so it's like it's all just rigged in a way to say, then if your parents can help you, okay. A lot of people are trying to do it on their own. And then they graduate being like, okay, I guess so I've been told I'm going to graduate. I'm going to have, you know, $100,000+ in debt. Your student loans can never be erased through bankruptcy. It's one debt that will follow. Even if you declare bankruptcy, your student loans will not be forgiven. And then you're supposed to be like, well, at least then I can get a job. I see students who graduate sometimes and they can get they did everything right. They had good grades. They got into a University of California school. They graduate and they can get a job that's like $20 an hour and they can't pay for diddly. And $20 an hour is well beyond minimum wage because minimum wage in this country is still $7. Like, what is it? $7.25, $7.50.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway. And then at the very end, we have the safety net erosion. So programs that help previous generations, pensions that people could fall back on, you know, a guarantee that your social security is going to be there, that affordable education. Like my dad would work in summer to pay for his college education, that kind of thing, and be able to pay for the year on his summer job. Those have all been systemically weakened, leaving individuals to shoulder more financial risk.
Yep.
Okay.
This is so puppies and rainbows. But Squid Game is not. I'm sorry. And that's the whole thing. If you're watching this and just like glorifying which is fun. Like if you want to watch it for entertainment, that's fine. But the theme and the message is there. And in season 2, I think it's even more in your face.
And don't listen to the podcast then.
Well, true.
But okay. So in the show, one thing that happens is they present this vote as democratic. At the end of every game, they can choose to end the whole thing and go home and just split the money that's there. The carrot and the stick, though, is that the less people that are still alive, the more money you're going to make, right? Because you're sharing it among less people. So there's that kind of like, they put that like little bit of like a token avarice to like kind of keep people voting to stay in the game. But like, let's look at the context of the vote too. The players have witnessed horrific deaths. They're traumatized, but they've also glimpsed this prize money potential because a giant piggy bank, a plastic pig comes from the ceiling and is just filling with money. And they're voting while still under complete control of the game masters in an environment that's designed to manipulate them. And then we know that if they leave, they're returning to crushing debt and desperate circumstances that have not changed since they entered. So while it's technically a, quote, democratic vote, it's happening under extreme duress and manufactured conditions. The game masters know enough that players are facing real-world desperation, and they're likely to vote to continue, making others have to return too if the majority votes that way. So it's a way that makes the players feel like they have some agency, but the system really is maintaining the control. So can you think of any real-world situations where choices or votes appear fair on the surface, but are actually heavily influenced by existing power structures?
Well, I mean, I think politics in general is this. Like, just not to be like vague, but I am going to be vague. So they create systems and then try to give solutions for them and ask us to vote essentially on hope that they're going to change these systems when they really aren't. And we just continue to vote without feeling like we have a choice because I feel like we're voting on hope half the time.
Mm.
So I know it's a vague answer, but that's what I think. I feel like I'm like, I'm just voting and the power structure isn't going to change. So I don't really feel like I have a choice.
Right. And we have a two-party system. I mean, again, this could become like a whole, like, I've made the system that we're playing in tonight, but yes, I acknowledge, I think what you're saying is correct. It's it feels like a false choice sometimes. Yeah. But you're like told that it matters. And there's a lot of propaganda about like how it matters.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with another one, which is healthcare in America.
No.
So again, it feels like you have this like access to what we're always told is amazing healthcare, best healthcare ever, blah, blah, blah. We wouldn't want to have any of that free healthcare that places like even our next door neighbor, Canada, has, because of course there's like waiting line. Like we've always just been fed these things of like they wait for stuff.
We've been fed that they wait for years for surgery. That's what I've always been told growing up. For years.
They wait forever. And yeah, so anywhere that has like government subsidized health, like we've just been told government belongs not in healthcare. They will mess it up for you. You will not get good service. You need to have healthcare. And how do we get healthcare in this country? Perversely, we get it 9 times out of 10 especially before the Affordable Care Act kicked in, which is quote Obamacare, which gives some like government regulation and support to it, is through your job. And so that becomes really interesting because if your healthcare is connected through your job, then you're pretty damn fucking committed to your job. Because if you quit your job, you have no healthcare. And that broken arm you get could cost you $8,000 to $11,000 if you have no healthcare. And so I think that it's a way that you make people think like, I've chosen to have this job. But then when you unpack, like, why are you doing this? Why haven't you left? Why haven't you tried something else? Why aren't you trying to be entrepreneurial and do something that might be creative, fun for you, and may have the opportunity to like increase your income because you're going to become your own business owner? Healthcare, because you're taking on the huge risk of what happens, because healthcare in this country has the potential to bankrupt all of us at any given time. Mm-hmm. Even if we have insurance, sometimes depending on the plan. But I would say that for me and like our plan, we don't have a plan that healthcare at this point would bankrupt us, but we are beholden to our jobs to have that healthcare. Like I'm not a full-time writer, in large part because I need to have healthcare. And so both my husband and I both have jobs that allow us to have access to healthcare. But what would happen if I was like, well, I'm a full-time writer now, and then he was laid off by something, especially working in the environmental sector in this kind of climate? All of a sudden, we have no healthcare for a family of 5. We would be dancing in a very precarious situation.
Right.
Okay. Moving on to another. So something I think is visually amazing and just psychologically like effed up is how Squid Game subverts childhood games into instruments of just psychological horror. So, famously, it takes something as innocent as red light, green light and transforms it from like the jump of the game to like a lethal spectacle. And the red light, green light's a hard one because the characters at that point, like the players, they know that they're signed up to play a game. They don't know they're playing for their life at that point. So they come out, there's the giant doll, they do the red light, green light, people start getting mowed down. And all of a sudden you've got this realization, what the fuck is happening? So that's game 1. And the thing is, too, is that these games are not complex. They're dying kind of playing the same straightforward games that they presumably enjoyed in childhood. But now they're like weaponizing trust and friendship for the most part.
Yes.
And I feel as if like each round kind of just like serves as this like dark reflection of like how far they've fallen from like their youth and innocence and like their hopes of like everything. It's just like pushing them further and further down these holes. So what do you think about using childhood games for this kind of a transformation? And is there a particular game that resonated with you more strongly, and why?
I think visually Squid Game was always superior. I think that's one of the reasons it kind of went viral was because there was just so many good visuals, the like bright colors, the way the sets are so childlike. It's not a dark, like say Strangers from Hell. It is a dark, sweaty, dirty drama. Squid Game is not. And so you have the visuals of like a merry-go-round with like pools of blood on the ground. So visually, it's always, I think, so good because you're right. It's taking like the innocence of childhood games and then making them violent. So I did think this one was interesting. In the first season, same thing. You kind of had alliances. I think this one went even a step further. So they had a game where there were 4 or 5 of them, I forget now, who were tied together by their feet. And they had to go around in a circle and essentially play different games at a station. So they had to, in America, I call it hacky sack. They had to kind of play like the hacky sack game. They had to throw something and knock it over. They had to spin a top, and then they had to play that game that's similar to Jax, I would say, or comparable to. So you had these people that were working together as a team and then losing as a team. And then you turn around and you give them the merry-go-round game that is breaking and destroying those alliances with deadly results. I think you're going to talk about the merry-go-round game too, but that one was so hard for me to watch. It was so heartbreaking. Because how it worked is the merry-go-round would go around. They would play music. And then the music would stop and they would count out a number. So say 3. 3 people would have to go, you'd have to separate into 3s, and there were rooms all around the perimeter, and only 3 people could go in each of the rooms. And if there were more or less, you'd all die. And they kept changing. So it'd be like 2 people, 5 people. And so you're choosing who to push aside, who to keep close to you. I just thought that breaking of trust and then turning around and giving them forks to kill each other was just crazy. It was so wild and so personal. And that's the thing about Squid Game that always messed me up is the personal element of it. The last game in season 1 was, 2 old friends fighting to the death. And I love that they kept that in season 2, part 1.
Yeah, merry-go-round was the one that got me for sure. So and it was like merry-go-round meets like musical chairs.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because you've got the large merry-go-round in the middle of the room playing the happy music. And then around the room are these rooms with doors. And when the music stops, they would say a number. And then you had to be in a room with that many people. You couldn't have less, you couldn't have more. And so you're essentially in a mad rush. You have a certain amount of time to get, like, it might be like 6. So you got to round up 6 buddies. You run in, you're like, okay, we all lived. Everyone else outside is getting shot down. And they've got windows. So you've got people like up against the window, like, like getting shot down.
Yeah.
Then you come out to play again, and the 6 of you are next to each other because you just played. This time they might say 4. So you've got to be like, shit, we got to ditch 2 of you. 4 of us have to come, and so that kind of thing would happen. And so, yeah, its whole purpose was to just fundamentally erode. And that was before the forking, right? So if you think about
that's what I'm saying. So you erode all the trust, you mess up the alliances, you make everyone question each other, and then you arm them with forks in a dark room.
Yeah.
It's just sick. It's so sick. And because at this stage, you've watched season 1, so you know who's watching. You know that the VIPs are watching this forking in the dark and are like getting off on it in their masks, and it's disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting.
So yeah, let's talk about the VIPs now. So the way I think that the VIPs distance themselves from what is like the brutality of the games is intended to make a lot of statements on privilege and dehumanization. So they've transformed death into this entertainment through a few methods. First, like we've already talked about, it's very sanitized and gamified. It's bright. It's cute. There's clean eliminations. There's neat removal of the bodies, and there's like colorful scorekeeping. So it really feels kind of like a video game to be watching it rather than real death. We don't see the VIPs so far, but we know from season 1 that the VIPs are treating it a lot like sports betting. So they're kind of like gathered, they're wearing masks, and they're kind of taking odds on like who's going to be making it. And the players are more like game pieces than people. And we even see this done so simply as they don't have names, they have numbers, right? So you're betting on them as racehorses. Like I'm betting on 232 and I'm betting on 485 and stuff like that. So the whole system's rigged to let them view the poor as fundamentally different from themselves, and they're just chattel for entertainment. So how do you think this reflects real world situations where privileged groups distance themselves from others suffering? Have you noticed other patterns, although albeit less extreme? Or not?
Yeah, so I'm going to answer this in a second, but I just want to say something that I just thought of, and it made me laugh a little bit. So we were watching Squid Game. I was watching it with my husband, Neil. And so when people die, they put them in boxes with a big bow. And then they burn them. And Neil was like, that's really a shame. Or not, I forget how he worded it, but he was like, why do they bother with that like fancy box if they're just going to burn it? And it made me laugh a little bit because I was like, that's capitalism, because if you're looking for a cost-cutting measure, you're gonna first eliminate the bows. You're gonna take the bows off those boxes. You're gonna save some money on the bows. That's probably what the VIPs are up in there thinking. They're like, we could make even more money if we took bows off the boxes. I don't know. It made me laugh, and it was just a very capitalist response or reaction to me. Yeah, you know what I mean? I was like, well, that's anyway. Well, I mean, I think it's worth noting, too, that at least in season 1, I'm pretty sure all the VIPs were not Korean. So I think that is one way that we other each other is we look, oh, they don't speak our language. They don't look like us. So who cares? They're just a number. They don't have names. So, I mean, that I would say that I think like that's probably my biggest example is how the VIPs can separate themselves. And how we do the same thing.
Yeah, like, again, let's talk about what's happening right now with undocumented deportations. So here...
They're just aliens.
Yeah, we call them aliens, first of all.
Yeah, on purpose.
Yeah. Secondly, like we take away all nuance about like what circumstances would mean that somebody would be here without work authorization, quote unquote, undocumented. How did they skip a line, essentially like a process to be here? And so to make this work, you're not interested in the why. You're not interested in the complexity of how this happened. You're not interested in the fact that somebody might have been brought here as a 6-month-old and has lived in the country ever since and has like never seen wherever they're from. They don't have their paper. They don't have their thing. They are an alien. They are an undocumented person. We now have the ability to round them up, put them on a plane without like in handcuffs and fly them somewhere, open up Guantanamo Bay, put them there. And we have a large amount of the nation that then cheers for this to happen. A lot of people do not and feel like this is not okay. But we have quite a lot of people that feel like this is a very fine thing to have happen. And so I'm not even talking about like how we make immigration work for people. I'm just saying that like right now the system is creating dehumanization of people who do not have certain statuses in order to create a spectacle that makes it look that is honestly in some level for entertainment, because it's meant to be making like people feel like there's something happening. They're looking and they're seeing their government do something and it looks like a spectacle and it looks impressive. And they're like, hooray, look at that happen.
Yeah, it's meant to symbolize, oh, look at the progress we're making, which are you really? I don't know. Are we really doing anything? But yeah. I mean, and same thing, the VIPs are watching and they're just a number and they're just people. They speak a foreign language. So it's not like they can't hear them cry for help. They can't hear them talk to each other. They can't hear the mother and her son. They can't know that she survived the Korean War and worked all her life to support her son, who turned around and used the money for gambling. We don't know the one woman's pregnant. I mean, there's just so many things that we don't know and the VIPs don't care about.
Yeah. So how did you get there? How are you in your desperate circumstance? Does not matter. Just legitimately doesn't matter. You are just there and you are just a spectacle to see.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, I want to switch over to a couple of questions from the Patreon that we had. And the first one, I think it made me laugh when I read it.
Yeah.
It was, given what happened in season 1, should Ji-hoon have been more suspicious of player 1? So player 1 is essentially a plant, because in season 1, the whole twist of season 1 was a player is a plant and actually is a VIP playing the game.
Yeah, because he's like dying or something, and he
wants the fun of being there.
Yeah, he loved it.
Loved it. And so season 2, it's the VIP. He's not a VIP. He's like he runs the show. He's like the CEO.
He's the front man. He's the front man.
The front man, but I would essentially say that he appears to be something like the CEO. He's like
he's like the manager.
Yeah.
Sort of. I mean, yes. Honestly, yes. It was funny. I will say I was so happy when that I wasn't spoiled for this reveal. And also this is another thing too. Why as a viewer was I not thinking, because, who's won? Like, why was I not suspicious of who one was? I mean, I knew he was the front man, but I just mean, as they were taking that first vote and they're getting down to 1, and he turns around and you see it's the front man, it's Lee Byung-hyun. But as they were counting down, why wasn't I like, oh, the 1's going to be a plant? Like, I didn't think that as a viewer.
I didn't either. I wasn't even remotely. At that point, I was just watching the show. I wasn't like I'm not like Amy, who's trying to be like, what's happening? What's going to be the next?
She does.
Watching it.
I didn't either. I was just watching it. But I will say, when he turned around and we saw his face, I did lose my shit. I remember thinking that's a good twist. I was really happy. I feel like that was a way to make this season really unique. Because as the viewer, this is the thing I always like about Squid Game, is you understand the themes, but as a viewer, you're forced to humanize these people. You can't look away. You have to feel what they're feeling. You have to sympathize.
The viewer is the empathy. The viewer is placed in empathy.
Correct. And I love that. I'm always going to love that, especially because my empathy strength is very high. It's like number 2. So I absolutely love that Squid Game does that. I feel like and again, the people who miss that or just want the violence of the games, I know I always say like, watch how you want to watch, but like that really does bug me if you're not getting the message, because the writer of this, he kept true to his message and his theme. This is what he wants you to understand. And so if you just want people to fall to their deaths playing tug of war, maybe watch something else, because that's not what Squid Game is. And so, yeah, I love that we're forced to humanize. And I think that when we saw who the front man was, and then that whole storyline, because and also what's interesting is you don't know his motive. Really.
Yeah, so that's okay. So that was the next question, really, from patrons. So I'm going to just throw it out there so we can get into it.
Yeah,
so I only picked 2 for this part. So, In Ho, who is played by Lee Byung-hun, who's the front man, or AKA Player One. Do we think he's fully broken, or is there some hope for him deep down? And is he keeping Ji-hoon alive just to see all his friends die and essentially just be like, haha, sucka, like the game wins in the end? Or is he wanting to like talk to him more?
I'm so curious about this, because I think In-ho wants to prove a point. I think his whole purpose for doing what he did was, I think he was curious about Gi-hyun. I really do. I think he was very curious, wanted to know why he came back. I also think In-ho thinks he's going to win. He is convinced that he holds the power structure that will win out. He doesn't think there's any way that anyone can overthrow what he's doing. But do I think he's totally broken? I don't know, because I'm very curious what happens in part 2, because if Gi-hun does somehow start to dismantle this power structure, how Gi-hun or how In-ho reacts, how the front man reacts is the key. Is he going to flail and go down with the ship? Or is his thinking going to be rearranged? I don't know. I think we get glimpses that he's pretty broken. He talks about how his wife, I do think that, I personally think that story that he told about how his wife got sick and died, and they're in like mounds and mounds of debt or whatever. I think that was a very true story. I think that was the only true thing that he really said to Gi-hyun. I don't know. What do you think? You think that was true? Or no?
I do think that's true. I think,
because we know he won the game. He went into the games for that reason.
Yeah. And I think he structurally is like, yeah, they're adversaries in that, like, yeah, the front man is the game, right? He's embodied the game and he has become the game, essentially. And Ji-hun, or is he 485? I forget his number right now, but
456.
456. Thank you. He's playing like, yeah, he's meant to be like embodying kind of like the empathy, right? Like he's meant to be like, he had everything. He could have gone away and been living in Bora Bora. Instead, he decided to come back and like take the system down. I do think that like if I have to say my prediction, I think, because we're going to get into some of the other characters, and one is going to be the recruiter Gong Yu. I don't think we're going to have a repeat of like Gong Yu. And so we're going to get into what Gong Yu kind of represents in the game and like how he shows up in the game. But essentially, I don't think that I see the front man essentially being like, I will be only abided by the game, and like the game is the game is all, and like
see, I don't think he will either. I agree.
The brother, I think it's going to be Lee Ha-jun, his brother. He shot off the cliff in season 1. There's got to be something more familial coming. I don't know if Ji-hun is the catalyst.
Yeah,
because Ji-hun represents like a humanization, and I don't know if I see him taking that humanization that way. One thing that's fascinating, I mean, I'm not a great predictor at the best of times for these. I don't know what is going to happen.
I don't know either. I actually do want to, what did you think about, because essentially, like, what did you think about it ending on a cliffhanger and essentially splitting season 2 into 2 parts?
I don't understand why Netflix is doing the 2 part, because I guess I don't understand, like there's a business reason why that I don't understand of like how their model's working, because like this is not like an ad show. Like there's not like we're not paying for advertising, whatever. So I don't understand why they just didn't do like a longer season 2 and just give us the whole thing. I don't know why there's a split. Maybe it's so that they can hype it. And I guess that's probably what it is. It's like marketing driven hype, although you do risk then having people just drop off through attrition. So I'm not sure. I mean, Netflix has done other shows where they've done splits like this, where they've kind of split and then they bring it back like 3 months later.
Mm-hmm.
It's not my preferred. I mean, it's not going to be a third season. That's the thing. It's not a third season. It's just the continuation of season 2. They just stopped season 2 kind of at like the halfway point.
Yeah.
Because we're not even at we got a crisis point. Like if you look at it from a beat structure, they structured it to give us a false, like I forget what's the beat that's like the false crisis point, because that's where we
yeah, exactly. We're at like the false. Well, we're kind of I mean, because
we've been through the fun and games.
Yeah, I think that you're right. You're at like the false victory. Yeah. True.
The front man is up in this one, not Ji-hun. Like at the end.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes,
we think Ji-hun has a chance. We know that they're not going to win there, but like Ji-hun comes in with a plan. They get pretty far, and now we see that the front man kind of has control again. Like the front man has gathered control. If I had to predict what happens, I think we're going to see both lead. I think we're going to see front man and player 459 die. I think neither of them are surviving. This is my prediction.
Yeah, so I do need to say I have like a major beef with this. I'm very irritated that they stopped it where they did. I think for maybe a casual viewer who isn't like who doesn't fully get story structure or is able to recognize it will just feel frustrated. Mm-hmm. And that's very annoying to me. I just think a lot of people were like, I saw a lot of responses that people said, well, what was the point of the season? Because his rebellion failed. And it's like, well, there is a point. Okay, first of all, he has completely affected the game. He's not back to square one. You cannot say that Gi-hun is back to square one. A lot of things have been altered. I think the games will change a little bit based on the choices that he made. So I don't think we're back at square one. It's not pointless. But I think it's really freaking stupid. I just don't understand why you don't give us the whole thing. Because essentially you stop the hero's journey halfway through. It's not 2 separate parts. I did see the writer come out and say something like, well, that's because in the second part, Gi-hun has a whole nother journey. It's like, well, no shit he does. Like, that's the whole point of the hero's journey. Like, he still has more to go. And so I'm really irritated. I'm on the record that I hate this. Netflix, stop doing this.
Yeah, to me, there was no need. It didn't make me wild, but I was also just kind of like, it was irritating.
Yeah. No, it made me pretty angry. I was like actually angry.
Robert, you were really angry. I feel like I was just more, and I mean, a lot of the public was angry.
Yeah.
Maybe it was because I was flying home. Like I landed in Honolulu right when so basically I was watching it in transit, and it kind of nicely landed where like I wrapped up like 45 minutes before my plane landed. So I wasn't like devastated because like I was like, okay.
You're like, all right, I'm done.
Done through that cycle. But I mean, I would prefer just give me the season. Just give me the whole season.
Yeah, just give me the whole season. I just don't like it. I rarely like parts. And I almost didn't love it where they stopped it. I don't know. It was okay, but it was.
I feel like they stopped it at like a climactic part. I do think they stopped it at the right choice, personally.
They did, but I mean, it would have been good for the end of an episode, but like give us I don't know. Yeah. So I'm annoyed.
They gave you that Cliffy, and it felt cheap. It felt cheap.
Yeah, and also because I think the real message is going to hit home in the second part. So I think you like gave us only half. And so I do think for a lot of people it was frustrating. I still like people not giving it good reviews, but then I think that those were also maybe just viewers who were turning in for like the games, you know?
Yeah, I agree. Okay. So let's just kind of like bonk through for like the final bit of cast takeaways. I just threw some of the cast. This is very male heavy. We do have some more remarkable female characters in this. I just realized as I laid this out, I only included one. So, that we can certainly add a few more because there's plenty. I don't know a lot of their names off the top of my head. We've got like pregnant lady I didn't talk about. We have like granny mama I didn't talk about.
I love her.
So let's throw her in too, but let's go through the ones that I listed as well because here's the thing. I think it's hard to do ensembles where you kind of, each person has like a flavor. I think this is something that Squid Game does really well. I do always like an ensemble, and I feel like they gave us a lot of personalities where sometimes we're not getting a ton from these people. Yeah, I feel like they seem like a very fully realized character, even though you only are getting like a taste of them.
Yeah.
Okay, so first off, we've got just our main guy, who is played by Lee Jung Jae, and
Yeah.
that is Deepa. To me, he's the least interesting of the characters. Like, I am least invested in Gi-hun, frankly.
Yeah, and I think that's okay.
Yeah.
Cause I think it's okay, but I also I feel like in the second half is when we're gonna care more. Cause I think they had to build up the cast that we didn't know. So I think that's why I'm frustrated.
I think he's also just kind of like a blandish character because his role is kind of meant to be a little bland. Like, I think the first season he was more interesting because he had, he was playing the game more. This time I feel like he's more symbolic of,
totally agree. He's more symbolic because it's less of, he's trying to pay his debts. He's got a daughter. He's got there's all this stuff.
One, we're trying to figure out what the hell's happening the whole game. Where Squid Game 2, what's interesting to me is that, and I mean, this is maybe where it fails for some people too. In season 2, the cat's out of the bag. You know what the Squid Game is.
Right.
Whereas at the end, you had to figure out what Squid Game was. Oh my gosh, there's all these rich people. This whole thing, right. They're all watching it. They're all paying. They're all in on it. Squid Game 2, we already know that. So all that suspense is gone. So you're really then having to be like, how much do you give a shit about the people who are here? And it turned out for me, I gave quite a shit.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, well, let's talk about Kang Yu because I think he fucking crushed it. He was so good. He was so good. Completely transformed. In all honesty, Kang Yu, do shit like this. Why are you doing the trunk? Why are you doing the trunk and the silent C when you have this in you?
So
it pisses me off.
Yeah, I can't speak to the trunk. I've been lukewarm on Kang Yu. Kang Yu was one of my first hits, right? I watched Coffee Prince before Goblin, I think even. I would think Goblin, or I think Kang Yu was maybe my third K-drama that I got into. I think Coffee Prince was my third K-drama.
Okay.
And I mean, Amy can correct me, but if Coffee Prince wasn't my first, I watched Goblin second and then Coffee Prince. But he was part of my very first couple of K-dramas after Crash Landing being the first. And I was in on Kang Yu, in on Kang Yu. And we even had debates over Goblin where I was like, Lee Dong-wook, fine, but Kang Yu is the GOAT. Amy has kept that loyalty. Over time, my natural preference for him being my GOAT really has just dropped off. I haven't been as invested in the projects he's done, or when I've watched other things he's done, I've been like, meh, it's fine. Nah, meh to I don't care. So it's kind of just and Train to Busan was a huge slam dunk for both of you.
I know.
I think plotting wise, I have no notes on how it's constructed. I think it's constructed so well. There was just something about it where when I watched it, I did not emotionally go all in. So again, no knock. I think he did a great job in it. I think the movie is great. It just, for whatever reason, I didn't connect. Whatever he did in the one episode of Squid Game 2, though, I was everything where I've been man, I mean, I never had notes. I would never be Kang Yu, do this different, but I would be yeah, I think I'm just kind of over Kang Yu. I was Kang Yu is so back, baby. So back.
So back. So I just watched The Trunk, which was, I don't even know, 10 to 12 episodes of him walking slow around a house, talking slow, wearing wide leg pants and cardigans. I had to watch that for 12 episodes, which you can listen to our podcast. We didn't actually completely hate it, but it's not Kang Yu came out of the box for me. So to see him do that, and then to see him do the physicality that he had to do for this, when he had to stomp the bread, and then does that thing where he's he almost has to control himself, and he slicks his hair back and his eyes go all wide. Stop. This is what I want out of, in honesty, put Kang Yu in a villain role. Put him in an An Oju from Lola's lawyer villain role. That is what I want. That's what I want out of Gong Yu. I don't want him to be the hero anymore because he clearly can play a villain so well. And so, I mean, look, honestly, I could talk for an hour about everything
Let's
he
just
did.
talk about him stomping the bread, because the bread, I think, is I think the bread and then the close of the scene. Those are the two things we need to touch on with Gong Yu.
Yeah. That was well, first of all, and again, when people just want like the violence of the games, I loved episode 1 because right away, this is the message. Like the writer is just like, here you go. Lottery ticket or bread. What are you going to choose?
And Gong Yu's doing this on his own time.
Oh, it's great.
The recruiter is not on the clock for this.
No, he's just whistling, he's like, I'm just going to fuck around with homeless people today.
He's on a day off from recruiting people to a game and sending them to their deaths. He's taking his day off, taking his hard-earned money he's getting from his job.
Yeah.
And making his own game to entertain himself just for shits and giggles on like a Saturday afternoon.
Right. No VIPs are watching this.
No. So lottery ticket or bread, the majority go for lottery tickets. And then he destroys that delicious looking soft bread.
Does look good. Stomps all over it.
With incandescent, cathartic rage, contempt, joy.
Like he put his whole Gong Yusi into
his Gong Yusi. I felt like I was watching when you see like I don't really watch Fox TV, but like when I feel like you would see like a talking head from like some of these like shows, or like who's the fucker that like acted like the Newtown shootings were like an inside job and got like,
oh God, what's his name? I forget. I know who you're talking about.
Alex
though.
Jones.
Yeah, Alex Jones. Yes.
And like he gets like sweaty and he's worked up.
Yeah.
And like,
yeah. That was Gong Yu in that.
That's what Gong Yu does, except Gong Yu does it in like a very like, I'm in a suit and I'm kind of like a hot Gong Yu elegance. Like I'm not like just like a bloated oaf in like a podcast.
I mean, the fact that he's doing this in a well-fitted suit and like surely expensive shoes is also I mean, there's just so much symbolism.
Yeah.
But I feel like,
but the vibes are similar of just like you are all nothing. And there's something about the fact that you're nothing that's like getting me off on it.
Oh, yes. Oh, God, you're right. Yep.
And then at the end, he gets into this like pissing contest. Like just, it's such a man thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's he and Ji-hun and they're doing the rock, paper, scissors, essentially with Russian roulette. So there's one bullet in the gun to start. And then does he put in 6? No.
The rock, paper, scissors are with the two like friends.
That's it. Rock, paper, scissors is
which is also great because the fact that you make them like choose.
Yeah. So the recruiter catches two folk trailing him, make them play rock, scissors, paper. Whoever loses has to like, have the gun. Like he'll shoot if the bullet's in the chamber, they're going to get the shot.
And he's having so much fun.
Loves it. So then Ji-hun and he do Russian roulette, but it's just back and forth. Just hand the gun back and forth. Bang, 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 bang. We get to where we know Ji-hun's kind of got the make or break. Like I'm either dying or he's dying. Like there's 2 shots. Like if I live, there's 1 shot left. Otherwise I'm going and he lives.
Yeah.
He pulls the trigger, click, nothing happens. Hands the gun to the recruiter. This game does not matter. Like no, this is not for stakes. The recruiter created this game, has locked them both in the dynamic.
It's crazy.
And that's what I'm saying. It's just like such male posturing. And as essentially now it's like, are you going to like abide by the rules of this game and like shoot yourself in the fucking face? Or are you going to be a pussy and live? And I'm like, I wasn't sure what was going to happen. Or I was like, are you going to just shoot Ji-hun in the face and be like, the game is rigged already, which is what I would have done if I was the recruiter. Just
I'd be like, there's 1 bullet left. I'm not going to shoot myself. But no, Gong Yu is the character, the recruiter is committed to the rules of the game to his own detriment. And that's the thing is like
puts the gun under his chin and pulls the trigger, which I found highly unbelievable, but also highly stylistically amazing.
It's like the people who are directly suffering from the system continually voting for the system. I mean, that's basically, they're shooting themselves in the face,
Yes.
accepting the system. That's basically what Gong Yu is.
He is somebody who's complicit in the system. He's not high up in the system. He's like a toady in the system.
Yeah.
And yet he will shoot himself in the face to keep that system going. And that's exactly what the point of him was.
Yeah, and there's a scene where he looks into the camera and his eyes are two different. So I saw this on like Instagram or something. He looks into the camera or at Gi-hun, but you know what I mean? And his eyes are almost like two different shapes. Like one, he has open more, which I kind of have a lazy eye. So like, I feel you, Gong Yu. But I also think that was intentional. Someone said it was kind of like to symbolize like the two halves of him. Like there's like a little bit of humanity still there, but then it's the game and the game wins out and he shoots himself. Like he looks, it's like, it's a very weird dichotomy to look at him like that. But yeah, I loved him. More Gong Yu that does this. Please. Villain role with Gong Yu. That's what I want.
Agreed. Okay. Let's move on to, is it TOP or top? I don't know.
I think it's both, but I think he goes by TOP. Look, someone said like, I think I saw a lot of things that were like, look, no one gave him a script. This is just how he is. I don't think this is how TOP really is, but I've seen interviews for him. He's actually very normal and he likes to tease people. But I think he did I loved him. I thought he was a very good villain.
Thanos.
Yeah, Thanos was great. I heard he wrote all his raps.
Here's the thing. I think you need to know the backstory, like for viewers. I mean, I think many do know, but here's the thing about Top. Is he was in Big Bang, which was and still exists. Like it's now down to 3 people, but you know, a popular like it's K-pop and was kind of like their Gen 2, second generation.
Yeah, but they're like pioneers for a lot of what we know as K-pop today. Like G-Dragon, who's the leader of Big Bang, was the one who created Light Sticks. Like he was it.
Yeah, he likes to talk about the fact he did Light Sticks. So, but Top. Here's the thing: is Big Bang partied for sure, and I don't know the specifics. I literally don't care, and I'm also not like you're more into Big Bang than I am. But I just know that like it wasn't like what we see now is a very sanitized idol view. Like, you know, we do see idols like, you know, would not have similar things of what kind of was happening in like 2009 to 11. And then in more like 2000, when did Top have his downfall? Like 2015? I can't really remember. It was like sometime in the 2000 aughts. He basically, he smoked weed is what that's what his downfall was. And for me, it is always hard for me to talk about the criminalization of people taking drugs. And it hits really hard for me, especially weed, because where you live, it could be so illegal. You could be actually murdered in many countries for, you know, possession or like, you know, having like, you know, dealing or selling marijuana. Where I live, I can walk to at least 3 dispensaries without breaking even like the remotest sweat. Like I just live in a place where it's like legalized and like happening. And so it is like I will just name right now that like for me, this is just never an issue. It's so normalized where I am. But he lost his role in the group. And not only that, he like became a pariah in society to the point that even coming back to Squid Game 2, there was such an outroar that he was coming back. And
I still saw some outlets blurring his face. Yeah, which is crazy.
So people blurring his face. He wasn't allowed to do open promo for the show, and so I'm just going to say that, like, as somebody who experienced this, I find it really, really difficult to say that we have other people on the show. And so, look, okay, I am going to talk about it a little bit. We have other people in the show, like the lead, Lee Jung-jae, with multiple DUI convictions, guilty. And I'm not, again, this is like not me saying, but beyond that, because again, I want to be even more specific, assault. He has been found guilty in assault charges. No problemo. But we have somebody who smoked weed, and we are going to say that, like, should they ever be able to do anything ever again in this lifetime? And the answer for some people seems to be no.
Yeah.
And so, look, because of that, I think I'm just, not only did he do a good job, I I wish him well on his success back. We have seen
Same.
other Korean celebrities and entertainers who have been very, very taken down by honestly what feels like highly moralistic, puritanical viewpoints that take away their livelihoods or put them in jail.
Mhm.
Like Yoo Ha-in, we see him off to jail for,
Yeah.
for drug laws that feel difficult. And so for me, I'm going to wish Top well, and I think his performance was good.
Agreed.
Lee Byung-hun,
Fantastic. He was
10 out of
so
10.
good. Because he kind of had, I mean, I know that maybe it's because we know who he is, but there was this like bit of unhingedness to him that came through, especially when he like strangled that guy in the room during the merry-go-round game. But I love him. I'm always going to love him. And I thought he and Lee Jung-jae had like amazing chemistry. Really good chemistry.
Yeah, I agree. And he was just somebody who I was like, God, you're like an Lee Min-ho for me, where I just like, you're always really good when I see you. And then I like kind of like, I'm like, oh yeah, you're just like the famous he's like an Lee Min-ho for me for sure.
Yeah.
Because every time I see him, I'm like, you're remarkably good.
Yeah. So good.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Let's talk about
back.
Kang.
We are back.
Let's talk about Kang Ha Neul.
Kang Ha Neul bullshit.
Oh, he's so good. With his ponytail.
He is a goober. His mouth is so big. He is
huge.
Husker. Like, I don't know. Like, he just felt thicker to me.
Absolutely. He looked great. I love a thicker Kang Ha Neul.
I mean, get out the fork. I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
Because
get out the fork.
And like and he also plays like he's in the army or he's like a former soldier. So he's a badass. But then we also see him like really fall apart.
But we know, there's something funky there. We don't really know what it is.
And so he definitely gets like gun shy and like falls apart at times.
Yeah.
He's a beautiful man. But beyond that, like the thing I love about Kang Ha Neul is he just radiates like such a decent goodness.
Yeah.
Love him. And I'd been like, we had seen a couple things, Curtain Call, what was it? Pirates, unfortunately. Like I'd been kind of off on my Kang Ha Neul. Like I was like, I really want him to come back for me. He and Garnable just like came in like Lee Min-ho on a white horse and King the Eternal Monarch for me. I was just like, damn, both of you, I miss you. Come back home. Come into my heart.
Come back home.
Come back home to me. I'm sure they care. They're like, oh, Leah's back on us. I'm like, yes, I am. Yes, I am. You know what? Here's who didn't get a lot of time, but I'm gonna let you take this one because this is a fave of yours, and mine too. But he didn't.
Yeah. Wee Ha-jun. So this was not. He didn't have a lot to work with. I'll just say I don't think like they had him on a boat half the time. Like he's just like searching for this island. Yeah. I mean, I love Wee Ha-jun. I always love him. I think the second part, because I loved what they gave him in the first season. It was so good. So I just think part 2 is going to be his time to shine. That's what I'm hoping. And that's what I think. And then we have MC1. What a fun role for him. Don't you think? Because it was like sort of it was complicated because you're not sure if you hate him or love him. I think because you dislike him because you think he kind of lost a lot of people some money and he's not the greatest to the girl he knocked up, but then he also like seems to, in this harsh environment, he's like willing to protect her. Well, he should, and the baby. But so I don't know. I feel like, again, I have a prediction. I mean, I think he's going to sacrifice himself somehow for her. That's what I think is going to happen. I mean, I think everyone probably can predict that. I don't think that's going to be, I don't see him getting a happy ending. That's what I'm trying to say.
No, I don't think so either.
And then we have Park Yoo-young, who is the North Korean defector. So I don't know if this would be correct though, and how this would link up. but that she's somehow related to the North Korean defector from season 1. Somehow related.
I think
I'm not
they're
sure how.
sisters.
Okay, that's it. They're sisters. So I thought she was great. I will. That's another thing too. The twist of her being a guard. Did that surprise you? Because when she enters that like thing and then she puts on the mask, I was like, no.
Because it lets you realize that they're like calling. Because that's one mystery we didn't get in season 1 was how the guards. And so seeing more about who the guards are and how they select them, and they're essentially being like, they're kind of like somewhere along the line, like, okay, you're going to be a player, you're going to be a guard, player, guard, player, guard.
Mm-hmm.
And so like you realize the guards who are actually doing the shooting at the bottom. I mean, it makes me think of like prisoners and like the correctional facility. Like these are people who aren't making much money at the bottom too, but they've got that little bit more power and then they're taking it and running with it. Because when you've got that little more power, what can that do? Even though like your economic circumstances are very, very similar.
And you're also probably able to other these people. You wear a mask so they can't see you. So it gives you like this anonymity to treat them like less than, you know? And then we got to talk about Park Sun-hoon.
Best favorite character.
Favorite character by far. So Park Sun-hoon plays the trans woman who is when the other female calls her Unni, it kills me every time just because it's like so you like she kind of takes the younger one under her wing, and then when she dies, that was obviously horrible. But Park Sun-hoon is just so good. I didn't see him, meaning the actor. He completely transformed into this role for me, and not just physically, but like all his mannerisms, just so freaking good. And the fact I love that they made her former military.
And she's a badass. We see Kang Ha Neul
badass
when it comes to the military and like the shooting.
She's so good.
She's like Rambo.
Oh, so Rambo. Oh my God, she's so good. And I love that. I mean, shout out to the mom, Kang A Shim. So she plays like the mom of the gambler. So the mom and son who are in the game together. I loved her. She also really kind of represented a lot of the heart for me of the show. And how she like takes everyone under her wing and she's like, come to my house and I'll cook you all dinner. Oh God, I really, really loved her. And I just, yeah. I love how she said to Park Sun-hoon's character, like, no, put down the gun. So thank God. Because I was like, I don't want her to die. The Park Sun-hoon's character. Oh my God, I did not. And I think that's it for characters.
Yeah.
That we want
those, I mean, there's a lot, but
yeah, and then when we cover part 2, we'll probably talk about others. I mean, there's a big
sorry
cast.
For all the characters we didn't cover. There's a lot of characters that were still really poignant and interesting we didn't cover, but we're not going to do like a 9-hour episode on this.
Yeah. So yeah, do you like, I think we already said this, but do you have any predictions for what's going to happen?
My prediction is that we're going to have we're going to have Frontman and 549. I think opposition
456.
456. I can't do numbers.
549.
And player 931.
They're 2,332.
I think they're going to die. I do think we're going to see more just because of how it's structured. I will be surprised if I don't think we're going to just be down to like a one winner. I think that was the purpose of season 1. I don't see them killing pregnant lady.
Same.
I think we're going to see a group of people. I think we're going to have some tough deaths, but I think that we're going to have some people survive.
I agree. That's fun because I said the same thing. And I really think we're not going to have the villain death where he's like going down with the ship. Like he's like, oh, I'm dying in a like pit of fire. I think there is going to be some real emotional connection between Lee Jung-jae and In-ho, or, Lee Byung-hun. I think there's going to be some sort of showdown, but I think there's going to be some humanization. There's going to be empathy. There's going to be a lesson. It's not just going to be a typical hero death that you cheer. I just feel like in the end, I'm not going to cheer for In-Ho's death. Like, I'm just not, because I think it's more complicated.
I think we're going to get more. Yeah, I think they're going to humanize the villains a little more. That's what I think. We're going to see more of that too.
Me too. I mean, now the VIPs can just die in a bat of fire. I don't care.
But I just don't think we're going to In-Ho. I don't think we're going to recruiter In-Ho. Where like I think we did the recruiter moment.
Yeah.
I feel like it would be a cop out if we did the same again. I just don't think so. I actually think this is just I know it's because I realized it's because it's so hyped that sometimes I like don't want to give it its flowers. But I think this is a very good drama.
Yeah. Well, in the end, in last season, oh gosh, what's the actor's name who did the final showdown in the actual Squid Game? With
I forget, but he's hot. Yeah.
I don't know. The actor from Prison, Jesus? Something.
Let me look him up best.
Because they made him the villain, but they also humanized him too. Remember that? There was like a very...
And his ending was like a very humanized, like, almost like, look, what else were you going to do? But yeah, I mean, like very humanized, right? But like, that's like how this... Yeah, Park Ha-soo.
Yeah, because you weren't... it was the same thing. You weren't cheering for him. You weren't cheering that he died. That's what I'm saying. I mean, you weren't in the end. And I think that's going to be the same with In-Ho. I think it's just going to be sad because I think we're going to feel sorry for him in a way.
We're going to have Wee Ha-jun definitely cry.
Yeah.
I don't think he's dying either.
Yeah, I don't think he's dying.
Sent them around on like a funky thing of like, it is funny that we know they're looking for him, but like, I mean, I also get it. Structurally, I understand why you have the boat subplot. I really do. Like, it makes sense that they've got it.
I do want to say, I knew that something was funky with the captain.
Okay.
Because the guys that were like harvesting the organs said something about the captain. They kept saying, and then when they called the boat guy, the captain, like, I just felt like, I even said to my husband, when we were watching, I was like, something's funky. Something is funky with this boat guy. Something's happening. Because that's why he was around the islands, because he was collecting the organs. So I think something funky is, well, we know something because he like just killed a man, threw him overboard. So I am curious how we're going to get more of that. And that's what, again, I think the Wee Ha-jun storyline is going to pick up. It was really boring for me. Like, as much as I love Wee Ha-jun, every time they'd go to him, I was like, we're just going to watch him on a boat. Like, it wasn't that exciting. But part 2, we will be here for it. We'll be watching. We'll be covering it. And I'm curious what you guys all think about it. So let us know. Check in with us on Instagram, in the Patreon. Let us know what you think about Squid Game 2. I'm curious if you guys have any predictions as well.
All right. Well, on that note.
Yeah. We'll see you next time.
Annyeong. Kamsahamnida. Thank you for listening to Afternoona Delight. Where can you find us outside the pod? Head on over to afternoonadelight.com. That's AFTERNOONADELIGHT.com. You'll find links to all our social media, our book recs, K-pop and K-skincare recs, and if you want even more Afternoona Delight, because really who doesn't, you can join our Patreon, where you can choose the patron level that's right for you. Join in daily K-drama conversations, listen to bonus podcast episodes just for patrons, and participate in our monthly live K-drama support group via Zoom. We can't wait for you to be a part of the community. Until next time, annyeong!